Yeah,
Sorry.
and then send me the link so we could send that on social platforms and
All right, it's going
whatnot.
live now. One, two, three. Damn it, I forgot to put it on YouTube live. Yay, now we're
Oh,
live.
Tech mishap
Oh, brother.
for
and this is
Darren.
why I should take over the tech stuff.
This is why you should do some of it, Joe, because I can't multitask.
I'll take care of it. I love you.
I love you too.
Not that
Aw.
much.
Yeah. So you mentioned fiduciary, and I got to tell you, I was on sitting in my living room the past few nights, and there's this commercial that comes on for a financial company, and that word fiduciary sticks in my brain because they say we're a fiduciary, which means we something we
You-
don't we
oh my
make money
God.
after you make money or something like that. So to explain what that means, fiduciary versus CFP.
Yeah, I mean, so CFPs generally are fiduciaries. Here's this terrible thing in our industry. We have to disclose as a fiduciary that we're doing things in the best interest of our clients. Like, shouldn't all financial professionals be doing things in the best interest of their clients? But it's kind of uncommon in the industry. And I don't know the exact amount of them, but it's rare. I think there's like 25% of us in the business that are fiduciaries and have to like lift the bar and act in that way. It's bizarre.
So I
I
asked my
always wonder
partner.
about that is like with fiduciaries, I get a peace of mind that, the decisions that you're making with my money you don't have kickbacks and things that's what's driving your decisions and not necessarily what I'm looking to do in my future.
Shouldn't it always be that way?
Should be. For
So
sure.
Pat, my partner Pat, his financial advisor, I asked Pat tonight, is he a fiduciary? And he couldn't answer me. So he's never asked. And that probably means he's not, because I don't think I've read that in his marketing material. So I'm not sure what that means, if it's a bad thing or I guess you're assuming that it is.
I don't. I assume that it could be okay, actually. Like, if you have a good moral compass, you don't actually need, that legal binding agreement with your clients. But it's good to have it.
I always wonder, how do you prove otherwise? Like, there's no way for me to say you made this move of my money because you got, some kickbacks. I don't know. It's a comforting for me, but there's no way to prove that it's happening or not.
Yeah, yeah, you're right in that aspect. But I think when it happens to you, you know it, right? And it's most folks in the business are still really solid people, and you don't need to worry about that. We've chosen to become the fiduciary so that we don't even have to have that conversation. It's all out in the open that we
an
are
open
acting.
book.
Yeah, an open book.
Totally. I heard that word the first time way back in JK days. It was actually one of our clients at the time. I forget the name, but we were building their website, and they were a financial advising company, and part of the whole section of their website was about fiduciaries.
I did their website.
I remember that website.
That's how
I don't remember the name. And honestly, this is the first. I must have not read any of their material, because this is the first time I've heard that word for fiduciary.
Oh my gosh. See, I actually
Ever.
read and care about the things we build, Joe.
I'm not the word guy. I'm the pretty guy.
All right, girls. So I'm sorry that I didn't get the YouTube live running right away. So if you didn't hear, our dial-in number is 855-366-9653. You can call in to ask questions. My next question for Brian is, so the basic question, I guess, so what can listeners do today to make an impact on their financial futures, like myself?
Yeah, I mean, that's great question, because everybody asks, like, what can I do right now, right? Everyone wants like that to-do item right now. Our advice is always the same. It's like, just start paying attention to your current situation. Like, so many people put roadblocks in front of it. Oh, I have soccer practice, or my career is really making me juggle a lot of the cards. And then by the end of the night, it's like right to the wine. When like, we just like to remind people, like, why are you doing it? Why are you busting your tail night and day? It's so that you can prepare for like this great future. So pay attention to it. It doesn't take a lot of work. And most of it can be farmed out to a really good planning firm or advisor, but just kind of find out where you are today. If you spent an hour just taking a look through statements and just, looking past page one, you're going to be in a better position than an hour before we just didn't even know where you were.
What's your opinion on like 401ks? Because right now, the only investments I do are basically pushing to my 401k.
Yeah, I mean, 401ks are great tools, right? I mean, this was companies getting out of funding their employees' retirement futures to that responsibility now falling on the employee. So 401ks in general are really great things. Every 401k is a little bit different, and the options inside of the 401k plans are different. You want to, max it out if you can, right? Because it would be a first if I heard that somebody said that they had too much money saved for their retirement. So if you can do it, do it. But pay attention. Again, just, you don't have to be an expert on the material to make pretty good decisions there.
So Manuel and I have a differing views of 401k. I think they're a good thing. Why not put money aside so you have money to retire? He's like, why do I want to put money in a thing that I can't touch until I'm super old? And then if I die, what am I going to do with it? So he's just like, I'd rather save it and, have control of it in other ways than a 401k that really limits how I can move my money around.
There is a really good middle ground in there. So, right, we talk to our clients about buckets on a conveyor belt. And as life continues to move, that conveyor belt builds it up. You want to build different buckets. What if there's goals that you want to get into before you're retired, right? So you need that other bucket of money. And so that goes to kind of getting to know where your finances stand. Like, are we just funding this one glooming thing that's over all of our heads, which is retirement? Or are we paying attention to the other stuff we want out of life?
So if I came to you and I said, I have $20,000 that I need to invest and I can't put it in my 401k, what do you tell people? I mean, do you tell them IRAs or what do you recommend that goes into?
Tequila.
I turn the mic right over to you, Darren, and I say, tell me what this is for, right? Like, where in your life do you need access to this? And then we talk about like the investments in general. Like, are you a 0 on a risk scale? Are you a 10? Are you somewhere in between? Because so many times people say, I'm a conservative investor or I'm an aggressive investor. But I like to actually assign those risk tolerances for the different buckets along the way. Like, you may be really risky with your retirement bucket, but you may be more conservative with the bucket of the house that you want to buy in 4 years or the college expense that's coming your way. So it starts there.
So if I told you I'm a 8 out of 10 with my $20,000, then what do we do with it?
Risky? What do you mean?
Risky. I'm more risky.
Yeah. What is it earmarked for?
Nothing right now.
Or what it could be earmarked for in your life.
Well, have a plan, Darren. Have a plan.
Ideally,
he's
retirement.
Very close to money, obviously. He's like,
you're close to,
well, the funny thing is, I got money back from my 401k because my company, only because not everybody contributes to the 401k. I don't really understand the legalities, but if you have some people that are contributing way over the normal medium amount that the rest of the people do, they're legally not obliged to keep it or something, and they have to return a portion to balance it out. I forget what the term is for that.
It's called top heavy.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah, it's a top heavy plan. I mean, these plans were really put into place to benefit all employees. And when lower earning employees aren't encouraged to put into the plan, it actually hurts the higher earners who want to max out their contributions, but they can't. So
that's exactly what's happening. And I can imagine I'm one of several people that are in that position.
I have a question.
I can help.
I have a question. Now, we were talking about 401k, and for me, it's a very confusing topic. So what I mean by that is what you put in, what do you invest in? It's all very cryptic to me. So when you have a client coming to you, do you look at their options as far as investing, what they should be investing, how much they're investing? And on top of that, when you're starting a new job, what should they be looking for as far as this retirement fund?
So I think that's 3 questions in one. Let's
so many questions. Yeah.
Let's start with the first.
I'm a multi-layered guy here. So.
Yes, you are.
That is dynamic.
He's the onion, Jeff. The onion.
So first and foremost, you're in the ranks of people who are like, this thing just makes my head spin, right? Mm-hmm. Most people are really good at making their widget, and that's how they are going to prepare for their futures. And the 401k is just like one of the many tools in their quiver. So we just say, it's easy to educate yourself on it, right? Like, if you call any financial advisor, the one thing that we all have in common is we do like to talk about the business and about the different products. So 401ks in general are great. You should get to know your 401k plan when you do change employers. When you change employers, the other thing you want to pay attention to is what happened to my other 401ks from my other employers or my previous careers. Do I take that with me in my new one? Do I do something else with it? And then we talk about like asset location, not just diversification, right? Everybody talks about allocation. How much stocks or bonds do you own? We're like, hey, what type of assets are better held inside your 401k versus Darren's fund for his, house that he wants to buy in 4 years? You want to own different investments in different buckets to take advantage of tax and things like that.
So you know how companies say we'll match up to 7%. Say you do the 7%, they match for that 7%. Should you go higher than that 7% just to make more of a profit, so to speak?
Sure. I mean, you want to max out as much as your lifestyle will allow you to. Right. That's the one thing. People have buyer's remorse when they hit the pedal too much and they're like, I just want to max out because it sounds good. Or the person who shares the office with me does that. I'm like, no, pay attention to your personal situation. And even if you say, I'm going to start off for the first quarter in this new job, putting in 5%, by the end of the year, I'd love to get to a place where I'm in 10%. That's a much more comfortable process than just all in and then going, whoa, I don't have enough money to enjoy the today. To Jen's point, right, is what you were saying. Like, why would I save all for the future? There's a balance there to pay attention to.
So if I were, let's say, a 5-year-old, how would you explain a 401k?
Oh my gosh. So this is something we talk to all of the advisors in our practice about is we want to be able, our clients to be able to describe their finances to their grandson or their son or daughter in right language. So it's, hey, I'm older than you. So I have a 5-year-old. I'm older than you. I want you to get to my age. And when you're my age, I don't want you taking care of me. And so what I do is I put away little bits of money into my piggy bank so that bank can make sure that I don't live in your basement one day. And my son's name happens to be Finn. And we have this conversation. He has a silver a piggy bank that has all these different words on it, like retirement and fun and like swing set. And
That's
we say,
awesome.
put a little bit of money in there just so he gets that concept.
I finally get it.
Pat's brother is almost 60 years old, still living at home with his parents.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. I feel bad.
Is it
It's
really?
It is what
when
it
the
is.
parents come back, that's bad.
So I have a question for you, Brian. 401ks, you don't really make money from people investing in 401ks, right?
So we've managed a couple 401k plans for different size companies. So on that front, yes. Dan, I make money from my clients just really feeling comfortable with the advice that we're providing. So we may provide advice to accounts that we're not even getting paid on because we want our clients' success for long term. Like that's another problem with our business is so many advisors are like, hey, I'm only going to comment on what I'm looking at or what I'm paid on. And I'm like, no, it all has to kind of jive holistically together. And if I can recommend something in their 401k that complements the rest of their life, like that's a solid relationship from our standpoint.
Got it.
I have a 2-part question though for
Uh-oh.
financial advisors. I give a warning. First
I
one
didn't.
is-
I don't.
First part is, do financial advisors have financial advisors? And if you do, what would be the questions you would ask your potential financial advisor before you hired that person?
Gosh, that's the first time I've been asked that. And I've always wanted to be asked that question.
Great.
Seriously. So advisors are basically like every other professional. There's some of us that preach and don't practice, and those that practice what they preach. So, I mean, I would say I speak out to advisors who are not in my practice about my financial situation for the reason being, when you're in the thick of your own life, you don't even realize the stuff that's buzzing by your head or the stuff that you should be paying attention to, or you might be, avoiding. So I do. I think it's a great practice. Now, that being said, I have retired advisors as clients.
Wow.
And because they know our lives move very fast, the industry is very fast paced. If you're out of it for a year, you're a dinosaur. So those folks who are really good at what they did, they come back and they just say, we need help. We're not going to get in your way of advising us. We have our knowledge, but we're not going to get in our way. And I love that. So yeah, I think advisors should have their own.
So who are the clientele that you really are catering to? And 2-part question, Jen.
You learn quickly.
And who are your favorite type of client?
Rich ones.
Which
The
one
rich
do you like the
ones,
best?
the rich ones.
Yeah,
right?
let's start with that. That's the easy one.
Well, I just want like people to know like the type of clients you take care of, and so yeah.
So the old school way of answering that question is by saying we work with clients who have this much money in their piggy bank. Our firm, we try to be not snobby in that we will work with anyone kind of regardless of where they are in a stage of life. We may have different models on how the relationships work and how we're compensated and how we engage with the client, but we can work with anyone. Some people come to us, Joe, just because they need advice. They're changing jobs, they're relocating their family, they're buying or selling a business. That doesn't necessarily mean like investment management. They need professional advice on how to maybe do that effectively and efficiently. Maybe that's a one-time fee. We also have younger clients who are more into like this subscription model. So they know that life's going to hit them at fast. They're having kids, they're changing jobs, all the stuff that happens. They're like, I need advice. I need to be able to call you like in March when I'm thinking about refining my house. It has nothing to do with my portfolio. So they'll go on, some type of monthly subscription. And then we have the model that's always existed in the business where someone who already has established wealth, where their money pays us some type of like nominal fee along the way. So it's a firm that we can work with anyone. And we take a lot of pride in being able to do that. If someone knocks at our door and we care about them, they're going to know it.
So
that financial company that we built the website for, they were a little more snobby because
Were they?
I remember that
they were.
said you have to have at least $500,000 of investment money or something before they would take you as any kind of a
You
customer.
speak so elegantly about money, Darren. I'm impressed. No, just kidding. No, I think
Thanks,
that
Jen.
so in one of my past jobs, aside from this website, we actually built the private wealth management portal for Goldman Sachs. And that's where I really started to learn about high net worth people and how they invest money and all of that stuff. And what was interesting is Goldman Sachs has an arm called ACO, I think, where it's similar to what you're saying. They will take you in when you're not at the private wealth management level because they have confidence in their ability to grow your wealth. And then maybe you become a private wealth client.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of firms go into that. That proposition that Darren that you described was you have to have $500,000. That's like saying to the restaurant when you walk in, like you need to spend $200 with us tonight in order to sit at the table.
Yeah, like
a
Victorian
prefix
Albert's
menu.
is $1,000 to eat.
It's a ridiculous concept.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's more about the firm than it is about the client. Our clients, here's who our ideal client is, Joe, to answer your second part of your question, is someone who cares about their money. Someone who is actually really seeking advice and wants to take it and wants to partner with a firm like ours. That's a great client. The size of the piggy bank, we might not even talk about that until our third meeting with the client. It's so much more on where they are today, what they aspire to be, and then how we help them get there. And then let us know the fuel that's in the tank.
And my thought's always been, you never know where their wealth path is going to take them. They might be just jumping off. They might just be making $200,000 a year, but slowly, and you talked about that subscription model, you're going to pay as they go, right? They're going to grow and they're going to grow and you're going to be there right for them till they hit that mark where, they're making $500,000 a year, and they need somebody to guide them.
Yeah. I say to that point, like most of our clients that have significant amount of wealth never made it all in 1 year. They conquered it one day at a time, right? And they just put it away systematically.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people have to understand. It's not just, you're not going to hit the lottery one day. Maybe some people do when they strike it rich, but you got to work at that, and find guidance in such companies as yours, So I think that's a smart thing. If you have plans of creating a successful business, I think you definitely need somebody like Brian.
So Brian, if we look at the next 10 years, what should people be paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. In the finance world, it's like we're going to pay attention to interest rates a lot. We've been living at a very low borrowing cost environment for a really long time. Housing market's taking off right now, right? If we borrow for cars and things like that, how many times, if somebody came to you and said they paid 3% financing on a car, you'd like roll your eyes. You're like, well, I got 0. Well, eventually at some point that's going to get back to normal, and we'll have to pay attention to how we finance things going forward. The other side is, which I think is pretty exciting, is we're going to pay attention to how people work going forward, right? We're test driving this work from home thing right now. And I don't know if we'd move into it at the speed that we all did had it not been for something like COVID.
Yep.
So we'll pay attention to how employers treat their employees going forward and
Mhm.
how we all find work-life balance. Like there may be some people who actually want to work in an office and it'll feel like more like an employee benefit, right? Than an actual
Really?
like requirement. Yeah.
Darren's like,
I
no.
don't want to work in the office. I've been in the office since April. It's like I want to work from home.
Well,
Yeah,
and
so-
I'm on the flip side. It's like I miss human interaction and the
Mm.
ability just to like have a snack and talk to people and then go back
Mhm.
to work.
Yeah.
So Brian, with that, how has COVID affected your clients' their businesses or their wealth, and how does it affect your business?
So my clients are very divided, right? I mean, I have a lot of clients who in the beginning thought that we were going to be in a famine for a real long period of time. Fortunately, they just kind of prepared themselves, right? They just
Mhm.
like put on their britches. I have countless entrepreneurial stories where people were in one line of business that absolutely dried up. Like I have event planners, big time event planners who are
Oh.
in my book,
Yeah.
who are clients, they're dear clients.
Yeah.
So they have this warehouse where they manufacture like speakers and all kinds of things for big, big things.
Mm.
2 years of events canceled all in a single day, right? What they started to do was made those screens that go in between offices and things like that. Like they didn't stop. So the entrepreneurs kept on going.
Mhm.
I think what's changed for my clients is the way that they look at their lives. Like priority list, everything changed, right? When it was like money, goals, big nest egg, they're like family time or vacation,
Health,
right? Just
health probably. moved up, too.
Survive. Yeah.
yeah. So I think
Yeah.
it's brought us to simpler times. That's true of individual people who are employees of a company, but it's also like of people who run companies. Like we
Yeah.
found out we don't need all the glitz and glamour and 5 days eating out to be happy. Like life
No.
can be simpler.
Has anybody said to you, Brian, I've been at home for a year and a half. I'm taking a $5,000 vacation. I want my money out for a little bit.
I send it to them before the sentence is over. I'm like, you deserve it. Darren, like so many, my clients are builders, right? For the most, not build home builders, but they built their portfolios by making sacrifices along the way. Like I have millionaire clients who can tell you when they were like starting off with young kids that they drove to Florida instead of flew there to save a few bucks. So sometimes like they get to the retirement age and I'm like, yeah, it's time, it's first class time. Like you made those sacrifices along the way. Like it's time to step your game up and to splurge a little bit. That's the fun part.
What do you
Yeah,
think
you're
of?
not going to take the money with you to the grave.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the balance. It's the
Right.
balance
Yeah.
of now and later.
What do you
Yeah.
think of people that want to invest in like gold instead of more traditional things?
Or Bitcoins.
Bitcoin,
Yeah, that's the
crypto.
crazy.
Crypto and Bitcoins are out of our range. Like because of my licenses, I'm not even allowed to comment on it. It's the Wild West though at a high level. Anything that's unregulated, I don't know if you can define as currency.
Mm.
It's something. It's going to be there in the future. It's developing itself. It's important to pay attention to. I don't know if we can qualify it as currency yet.
Well, you talk about those buckets. Do you think that's going to be one of those buckets in the future?
Crypto?
Crypto.
He's not allowed to talk about those.
Okay,
things.
you're not allowed to talk. But let me just comment on what this is the crazy thing that I just heard of. An NFL football player convert $13 million to Bitcoins, and then now it's worth $26 million. I think he doubled the money, whatever. So that's how crazy the value of these Bitcoins are.
Bitcoin's been going up and down in crazy amounts over the past
Yeah,
couple of years.
Thanks
so
to Elon Musk.
that's
and
a
his
risk.
Tweets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But Darren, aren't you a big risk taker?
not that much. No,
Take your 20
I don't
grand
believe
and
in
put it
Bitcoin.
in Bitcoin.
Don't believe in it. I'll stick to the U.S. dollar.
Are
Yeah,
you
but
closer-
gold is actually something that Manuel is like comfortable with because he's very low risk. So he's like gold historically retains or grows. the
He's low
value.
risk. I would have taken him
Super
for a
low.
high risk person.
Oh no, he's
Huh.
very conservative. Yeah.
So there's a couple different ways to get involved with gold, right? Like people say, I want gold in my portfolio. Some people want to be involved in like the mining of it. So they'll invest in like miner stocks and those may have different growth potential than owning, a bar of gold that you hold in your drawer or in your safe or whatever it is. If you're going to own gold for the purpose that it is, I like the tangible form, right? Like it's the doomsday scenario. Like what happens if currency loses its value and I need something? Guess what? If you're holding it in an ETF or a stock, you can't hand that to the doctor to pay your bill, but you may if you have that in your head. Like you might be able to hand them a bullion, right? Like
Yeah.
that may happen. It's peace of mind. Like the gold is oftentimes peace of mind for folks.
You see all the what is that Scrooge McDuck with the fountain of gold coins? All rich people apparently swim in gold is what it is.
Scrooge McDuck. You're embarrassing. You're embarrassing everybody right now.
What is it?
It's Scrooge McDuck.
Why is it embarrassing? Stop it.
So Brian, I know this is not
weird.
really your territory, but I just have a question. What do you think that 2.25% for a home loan is a good percentage right now?
I think anything sub 5 is phenomenal, right? Like you wouldn't go near 5 right now, but historically, if you're borrowing money for a home purchase under 5%, like you should just high five. We've done dozens of home purchases and refis for our clients. Like we don't actually do the financing. We just guide them through the process and see if it makes sense for their portfolios through this year. And so many people are like, man, last week was a better rate. It was 3.1 and I got 3.2. And I'm like, that's a celebration. Right?
Wow.
Like that's a high five at the dinner table.
That's pennies. Yeah.
We just got 2.25% and we combined our equity loan with our regular mortgage. And now we're paying less per month and only a 10-year loan, less time period than what we had originally. So we're in
Think
good
about
shape.
that's the opportunity, right? That just exists in this low interest rate environment. When you asked me the question about what do we pay attention to the next 10 years, like I don't necessarily know that those are going to be the opportunities that are presented, right? To refi stuff and to put them into those lower interest rate buckets. If interest rates are rising, we lost those opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's really small, like the pay attention to your finances now kind of thing that I said, what can you do today to take a look at that kind of stuff, right? Like, sometimes people are really surprised to hear that from me.
Now's the time to refinance because I think their interest rates are going to go up and people can pay a lot more in another year or two.
No, I
would,
would,
right, Joe?
I would, yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna get into that. We got into a fight last time. I would love to buy a house personally, but it seems like the house prices are so inflated. It's it's a seller's market right now, so that's one thing that scares me. With the low percentage rate, what do you tell a client when they're scared? They're like, yeah, I need this house, I want this house, but it seems like it's $50,000 more than it should be, and I'm in a bidding war.
It likely is $50,000 more than it should be. And it's because as interest rates decrease, we can buy more house. So there's more people in the $500,000, million and a half market than there was 10 years ago because they can afford it now because the borrowing costs are lower. The perfect way to look at that is if you're selling a house and buying it, you're coming out even, right? If you're selling high and you're buying high, it is what it is. Same thing in the low. If you're buying low, you're selling low, you're even. Someone who's coming out of a rental or has a rental opportunity, it may be a good idea just to kind of sit on it, let things settle down, and then enter in. Like I have clients who are thinking about second and third homes. I'm actually encouraging them to hold off a little bit. Like a lot of people are going to go into overextending themselves right now. And when things begin to unfold over the next couple of years, there's going to be inventory that hit the market just because people can't afford their properties. And that'll be, a buyer's market again.
I mean, do you think that there's a balance there between what the cost of the home and the percentage rates being so low? I don't see it that way. I think it's a little lopsided as far as value of the house and percentage rates. So I think that's why I'm a little scared. I mean, eventually you're going to have to buy a house, right?
No.
I mean, not everybody has to buy
A rental
house,
is a tax write-off, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though, is it's not so much of a tax write-off anymore because the last couple of years, I think the max you can claim is 10,000 or something like that.
Well,
right,
on the
Brian?
taxes, right?
I think the max you do is a write-off of 10 grand per year.
The other side is like primary homes. I try to encourage people not to think of them as an investment. Like, sure, you can make money over a long term, but you need a roof over your head, like a place to raise your family or to sleep at night. So like if you have a second, third one, or it's a rental property, sure, look at that from an investment eye or an investment lens. But if it's your primary, be somewhere you love. And chances are, if you're going to be there long enough, like if you own a home for 10 or more years, even if you're buying at a peak of the market, you're probably going to still feel good when it's time you exit that property. Awesome. Timing's important, but time in is more important.
Well, I've got about $25. How can you help me?
That's nice.
How can you help me invest?
Bitcoin.
Oh, Jesus.
No, just kidding.
1/1 millionth of a Bitcoin or whatever.
I'm paying as like, what's your percentage rate? for about $25.
But listen, I mean, those people, if you talk to people who have wealth, they're going to tell you that they got it one of three ways. They systematically saved it, they inherited it, or they married into it. Right. Most people fall into that systematically saved it. So they took the $25 chunk at a time and invested. And as their budgets became larger, just took bigger and bigger chunks along the way. Like that's the way. So many people are waiting for that day where like, I'm just waiting to have like that $50,000 or that $100,000 or that $1 million bonus hit my account before I can invest. I'm like, why are you waiting?
Yeah.
Start where you are.
So question. I don't know if we talked about this at the top of the show or not, because I was fixing Darren's technical problems. And
That's true.
but so I mean, you really start this business, in the middle of a pandemic. Weren't you scared? I mean, bluntly put, that's pretty ballsy. I mean, what were you thinking? How were you feeling?
So I started in 2008, right before like the mortgage debacle. I remember I was part of like this practice that we had about 135 advisors in a very large room and ticker screens all over. And we started to see the Dow and the S&P fall apart. The nice thing about being a young advisor at that point is you don't have the comfort of having bull markets, right? Like that was my entry point. And so the one thing, I mean, and I hope this conveys just in our conversation tonight, like I'm a pretty emotional guy. I think my EQ is higher than my IQ. That helped through that situation. The other side is I knew it was a really hard industry.
Something went over my head. EQ is better than what?
Emotional intelligence.
Okay.
Come on.
Oh, Darren, come on.
He doesn't
I'm a little
have
slow.
You're an IQ guy, Darren.
Totally.
No, so that was what it was about, right? I mean, like in the best of times and the worst times, having compassion. And to tell you the truth, like as a new advisor in 2008, it was great because so many people were falling out of love with their old advisor.
Oh,
Falling out of love with their partners too, right?
So
Absolutely.
I have a question about, Darren had mentioned that talking about money is a tense subject, which it is for a lot of folks. You hear, particularly with women, no offense, Darren, that they don't like talking about money.
What are you trying to say, Jen?
Or they just don't know the money aspect of it.
That's what it's like for me. It's like Pat enjoys doing the bills, looking at the finances, looking at the retirement things, looking at the investments we have. And I don't. It just, I think I don't because my father used to hammer into my head that I should be paying attention to it. And it was sort of my revolt, rebellion against it.
I think that financial planners or advisors are kind of like therapists. And I feel like you have some maybe difficult conversations when you have people coming in to ask for your help about money, especially if money is like a taboo topic in their house.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the conversations usually start with one or both spouses like this. And to me, that doesn't mean that they hate the subject. It just means it's really uncomfortable, or that something in the past, to Darren's point with his dad, like just makes them not enjoy it. And so if we can humanize it and make it very selfish about the client, about what they're trying to get to and all of that, that's it. If we can get to people from something that's very uncomfortable to talk about, something that they almost enjoy talking about, that's when we know we're working with the right folks and that they've chosen to work with us in the right capacity. Because to Jen, to your point, it's very rare these days that people that are involved in any type of relationship are all on the same page. My job, above and beyond making them money and making sure they're successful, is making sure that both people are on the same page. Because one day, stats say that there's only going to be one person existing in that relationship. They don't need to be catching all the stones of the emotional loss and all this new responsibility that they got, that they're being dropped on their shoulders.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And giving them, to your point, that therapist role, like the moderator, and giving it a place where people can talk very comfortably about subject where maybe they don't have the permission slip to do that at the kitchen table, or maybe it's so tense because like at my house, it's like the kids are throwing pasta or whatever it is. And you're like, but I wanted to talk to you about what I did with my 401k. And then like, that's it.
Right.
Sometimes just creating that right environment for people is amazing what it can change. And then taking away some of those gender roles, to your point, where like you said, sometimes women, no more of that. Like no more saying this is his job or her job. Like I'm done with that. And I will also not talk to one spouse. Like no meetings with one spouse. You both need to be there. It's your futures.
It's Kelly's job.
Smart.
Also, Joe, you're the wife. Is that what you're trying to say?
I do it in our
Whatever.
household, but I think that Manuel is very
I much-
interested in money. But
I much
Never.
rather just be like, here's the paycheck, and you
Take my
do what
money
needs to
and-
be
That's
done.
how I'm like. It's
I mean,
like,
but
don't
she
wanna
has a
pay
brother that will
attention to
take
it.
your money and make
Oh,
it
we didn't mention.
multiply.
We didn't. Well, so you just you let the cat out of the bag. I was about to bring out how I knew the great Brian Hartman,
Oh,
and so how I know Brian is because his sister is my fiance. So
Your fiance.
my
fiance?
Oh, I didn't know she was
You're
your fiance.
engaged?
like Doug for like
When did that happen,
Joe? A year? I don't know. For a while.
Oh my
You
God,
did
your
let
two
a cat out
co-hosts
of the
don't even know it.
bag. Yeah, you let a cat
And we
out
live
of the bag
together,
already.
just in case you guys didn't know that.
Well, that we knew.
Okay, yeah. So
Sinner.
I met Brian, I guess like about 4 years ago, and pulling up at the house with Kelly, and he gives me the stink eye. He's really, he gives me a tough time. Him and
Is he
his
the
father
older
Jim.
brother or younger brother?
He's the younger.
brother.
Yeah, so they both give me a tough time and roughed me up when I walked out and
Good.
called me names and stuff like that.
As he
So
should.
it was a very intimidating and emotional experience, but I got over it.
Yeah.
Brian, are you protective of your sister?
I'm lying. I made that up.
Darren, look at my stat. The only thing that I could use to be aggressive, because I don't have the stature here at 5'7". I'm 5'7" when I wake up and I'm my tallest in the morning. So I have to be mean and give people the stink eye. So that's why Joe got it. No.
Joe, I don't think you're that tall either, Joe.
I'm 5'9" on the nose.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're like
But no,
a
they
tower
would-
inferno.
Yeah. No, they were actually super nice to me. They were like, come on in.
Why? That's
Have
so
some
good.
dinner.
Steak.
Because I'm handsome.
It's a trap.
Why?
Did you
Yeah,
have your
why?
surfboard with you?
I didn't. I wouldn't
Let's go
embarrass myself.
surfing.
Oh man.
He's
So
playing
is
the
it
Beach Boys in the
ever-
background.
Getting back to money. Let's talk about money.
Oh.
Come on, guys. It's like, is it ever too soon to consider hiring a financial advisor? Let's say I'm a senior in high school or I'm graduating college. Like, what is the right age to start working with a financial advisor to help plan your financial future?
When it starts to matter. Like in the perfect world, your first financial advisor is the one maybe that your family is working with or whatever it is. And they may not be advising you, but like a lot of times we'll invite our clients' children into the meeting just so that they can hear the language and the verbiage so that it's not an uncomfortable thing when they get to a point where they have to make the decisions. I love working with young folks. Majority of my clients are successful and at probably the third or fourth stage in their life, but we work with a lot of young people also. And it's an amazing journey that we can kind of show them. Here's what life looks like if you start to do the right things today. And you never have to have that huge paycheck or that huge bonus to be able to get here. It's just about chiseling it off. So it's about when you're ready.
What about folks that are, I'm trying to think of broadly the listeners. It's like, what about folks that are divorced, have bankruptcy? Are they good candidates to talk to a financial advisor?
Yeah. If your finances keep you up at night, it's time to talk to a financial advisor. And if you call one and they say, hey, you're bankrupt, we don't want to talk to you, call the next one. There's going to be someone out there that meets your personality, and choosing one a lot of it should be based on personality. And do you enjoy being in their company? Because if you do it right, you're going to be with a financial advisor for 30 or more years. You don't want to be at the other end of the call going, oh gosh, Brian's calling, right? You want to be like, hey, Brian's calling me, like something good must be happening. Like he's in my best interest or whatever, or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, all of those scenarios, divorce is big, right?
Yeah.
Because when people aren't planning right, all of a sudden someone who didn't have financial responsibility gets it pretty quick.
Right. Exactly.
So what's the number one thing that drives you nuts that other advisors do? Like you're in the industry and people talk, and you probably go to conferences and you kind of bite your lip when a person says this, and it just drives you nuts.
Yes, it's the folks that are still doing like the 1970s, 80s boiler room conversations with their clients where they're showing them like graphs and charts and trying to prove that they're more intelligent on the topic and just hope that the client comes along for the journey. Like, you should be part of the conversation or part of the decision-making process, not just going like, hey, Bri, that sounds good. Cool chart. That's what I want to invest my money in, right? It should be part of something bigger than that. And so when advisors are just like, this is what I told her or him to do, I'm like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, it's a process. It's a partnership.
So I have a question about financial advisors that you find in a bank, let's say Chase Bank, versus someone like you that I guess is considered independent, or what's the difference? And is there a better one versus the other?
That's great. I mean, on our business cards, it would have the same title usually, like, right, like financial advisor or financial planner or certified financial planner. So it's hard to decipher who's who. I think that there's great people in all organizations. I would say this, in an independent platform, there's no big bank culture that's being forced down. So the decisions being made for the client are being made like from a very organic place.
And
right?
you have more access to the different, I forgot what the word is, like options or whatever, packages, whatever it is.
There's nothing that's off limits when it comes to an independent advisor, right? So we can take advice from some of the companies that you talked about, like the Goldmans and the Schwabs and the Fidelities of the world, even though we don't hang our shingle at any one of those places. So you're getting advice from multiple sources, and then it's our job to decipher that and see what it means for our clients. I think that's great. It makes the job a lot harder as an advisor, right? As you don't have some like sales quota by your bank manager telling you this is what you need to do. I mean, we create our own destiny, and it's a partnership with our clients. I think that's important. We're seeing a lot more of like the wealth shift to the independent platforms because people want that unbiased advice.
And how do you compare this movement to do-it-yourself investing online through different platforms that are available versus a human?
I think the do-it-yourself model, actually, there's a place for it. I love when my clients have a bit of money in one of those accounts that they're kind of doing it because I look great. Like there may be a year where they
look great.
Yeah, they pick the right stock, right? Once in a while, and they'll call me like, my one stock that I picked is outperforming yours. And I'm like, great, that's why you have the account, right? I compare it really, from an easy model as like every single tool that you need to build your home is at Home Depot right now. Every single piece of material that you need to build your dream home is at Home Depot, but you wouldn't go there and try to do it yourself because you don't have the expertise or interest. Why would you try to tackle your entire financial future on your knowledge if you're a teacher or an engineer or whatever it is, or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever? You can be incredibly intelligent on your subject matter and be terrible at preparing for your future. Hire someone to do it.
Yeah. And it's crazy.
Leave it to the experts. Yeah.
Funny you say that because finances are so important for your future, but nobody wants to deal with it. Like we said, we don't want to deal with it. Whatever you get, your retirement funds, I'll put 10% here, 5% there. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's funny. I'm totally guilty of doing that constantly because I just don't want to deal with it. And it's just it's funny. We don't find it as important, or at least to most of us. It should be a very super common thing.
I feel like it's partly tied to the fact that we don't want to think about dying also.
Yeah, so focus on living. Focus on the living.
Yeah,
part,
I mean,
right?
I'm not thinking about dying. Jeez, I want to retire. I want to retire at 65, and I want to have a good life.
65.
And,
I want to retire.
65.
Come on.
I want to retire at 55.
Well,
Wait, when I'm 55.
Listen,
It's
65.
It's defining those things, right? Like if you have that retirement goal at 55, I'm like, what are you doing? Like what specifically tell me what you want to do with your life so that we can make sure that the funding's there. I believe that nobody loves money. No, I've never seen anybody rub dollar bills in their face. We love it as fuel for the stuff that we like doing or to help people that we care about or organizations that we care about. So that's it. Like define that and then make sure there's enough fuel in the tank to get you there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about, if you're doing what you love, which is a whole philosophical thing, you never have to retire. You can always be making money and living life and never officially retiring.
Well said.
So Brian, do you get down to the nitty gritty of their monthly payments for everything? How deep in the weeds do you go with everything?
So our whole model is a client design model. So if that's where their vulnerabilities are, they're like, hey, we just need a budget. Like we're all over the place. Taking a look at somebody's month to month is really unrealistic, right? Because what may come your way in August doesn't necessarily mean it's coming your way in September. And if you have kids, like we all, it just you don't spend money, it evaporates. It just goes away and you don't know where it went. And like, it's because of like all the stuff. So I think yes, it's important to budget. We can be very involved in that if our clients want us to be, if that's where one of the areas where they think we can add value to them, or we can kind of just, build it more broad scale about how much do you spend a month? How much of that is towards dedicated expenses versus variable stuff that just comes in, like, that surprise trip to Target or whatever, right? you went for Tide and left with like a new Joanna Gaines chair or whatever it is, right? Like
I always spend over $100 every time I go there.
They
Target.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But planning for that, right?
Just
like, and if you know that you have those gaps on a month to month, like you give yourself a permission slip knowing that you're not going to have a perfect budget. When people plan too far, to your point, Joe, in like the extreme detail, you'll fail every single time.
Yeah,
right? If you say, this is how much I spend every single month, if you don't spend that exact same dollar amount, you failed.
Yeah.
And that's not a good feeling. So you need to be agile.
And you will fail because it's hard to spend exactly the same amount.
I don't know anybody who's done it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with other financial planners and they're very rigid, and just be honest and transparent with my thought processes, and just talking to you is that you're very, straightforward, easygoing, and flexible as far as, hey, you said at the top of the show, if I want $5,000 to take a trip, you'd say, yes, go do that. Go take a trip. And not all circumstances you can do that, but they earned it. Yeah, I'm going to advise you, go take that freaking trip because you only live once.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
There are things that make sense for us that don't make sense on a balance sheet that still make sense for us financially.
Yeah.
You
and
have to be a human. You have to.
That's the part about it, and be authentic and be human. Like you said, it's a personality thing. Like, I'd hire you right now. If I
do
had
it,
money.
Joe. Do it.
I said, if I had money.
I just faxed you the account opening docs.
So
he said, you don't need money. You just need to have goals. That's all you need.
I have lots of goals. But besides me hiring you, how can somebody else hire you right now? How can they find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a really great process that we walk clients through, because just because it sounds good, we want to make sure that it is good for those people. Like, we describe our first meeting as a first date, where we barely talk about financial topics. Like, we might talk about our process or what's important to our clients, or talk to us about their families and all those kind of things, so that they can just see if the way that we communicate is on par with them. Like, if it's not for us, we're certainly going to bail on the relationship, right? And just say, hey, I don't know if this is a great fit. And vice versa. Like, we plan on being with our clients for the remainder of their lives, and we hope that they feel the same way with us. That has to start at the gate. So the best way for someone to get started is like visit our website. There's a great place where you can kind of schedule some time with us. We have an operations team who has full access to our calendars. And there's no commitment. There's no commitment probably until like the 4th hour of conversation with us. First time, jump on a Zoom call, casual conversation, just see if the communication style works. Second one, getting more in the weeds about the process, how we may be able to help them. And by the third meeting, maybe we're ready to start talking about the different pots of money in the piggy bank, because we don't deserve it at that first meeting. I wouldn't unveil the castle at my first date. No way.
Come on.
Right? Yeah. It's nerve wracking. It's nerve wracking.
So what's the URL, phone number, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So we are granitebridgewealth.com. All of our email addresses. So I'm blessed with a partner. His name is also Brian. So which that's part of our shtick a little bit, is you do work with the Brians. Both advisors are involved in every single part of our clients' lives. So Brian H or Brian D at granitebridgewealth.com. That gets the job done if you want to talk to one of us right from the gate. And then, our website's there also. We're pretty active on Facebook and things too, just sharing some gems along the way.
You know what I find most refreshing about you and your temperament and everything is we've talked to many financial advisors, and a lot of them are super aggressive, opinionated, not necessarily good listeners. and there's like a clash of personalities. And for someone that it has this very important job of entrusting our financial future in someone, it's like kind of dating. You have to like the person and trust the person to understand you enough to know what to do with your money. And you come across, I would say, like at the top of all of the financial advisors.
I think you got a new client, Brian.
I'm like, Manuel needs to meet you for sure.
Jen, but there should be nothing special about that. I mean,
Yeah.
think if you were an architect building someone's house and they just came to you and said, "Hey, can you build me a house?" Like, sure. Tell me what you need in it. Like,
Yeah.
how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? Do you have someone with special needs that needs a special type of toilet or whatever? Like, that's how advisors should be too. The better we get to know you,
Yeah.
the better we can plan for your future. At the end of the day, we don't define the goals as the advisor, or maybe some of the older advisors in the business, they define whatever the client's goals are. I'm like, no, you know what you want out of life, or maybe that's something that you're still kind of like building.
Yeah.
But that's what it's all about.
There was literally one financial advisor from New York that I had to just say, stop contacting me. Every time you talk, I get overwhelmed, because he was just like what you were saying, like trying to prove how much more he knows about stocks and
She used to
charts.
say that to me too.
It's my go-to line.
Hey, Brian, thanks a lot for coming. We greatly appreciate it. And I'm sure you have people are reaching out to you.
Yes.
This has been a ton of fun. I hope to be invited back sometime.
Come back again.
You guys were
It's fun.
Maybe you'll make
love
Joe and Darren more comfortable talking about money. Just
No.
I'll listen.
You were very quiet the show, Darren, actually.
I'm listening.
Yeah, a lot more.
Plus, I just got braces and they're poking my mouth.
Braces?
Yeah, braces. Let's see this. What?
Right. I
Let me
got they're Invisalign, but they put in
We
these
can't see. You have
these
the
metal pieces on the sides, and they're very sharp. So they're sticking in my sides of my mouth.
well.
Oh, Brian, real quick. So you're in New Jersey and South Carolina, but you serve different
Good point.
states, or how's that work?
Yeah, great question. So that's where our physical offices are. If somebody wanted to tangibly walk into our building, so much of our business is done just like this. Like, our clients are all over. I think there's probably less states that we're not doing business than we actually are doing business. And so we just create an environment where people can feel really comfortable. Again, COVID's helped, right? I mean, everything's
Yeah.
being done virtually. We love that type of relationship. And from the client's perspective, where are you more comfortable than like in your own chair, like your comfy chair in your house?
Yeah.
That's where you can have this
Absolutely.
With a
conversation
wine
from.
or beer, or
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
On the
water
side. Yeah, on the side.
Because I know we're running out of time, but does it make it your job a little bit more difficult, state to state, dealing with different people and what they have to deal with? What's involved with that?
Yeah, there's so much commonality there. Like, the big stuff is commonality, right? Like, it's the emotional side. The state tax things. If we're gonna practice in a state, we're gonna get to know the intricacies of that state, or else we don't deserve to be there. So it's a challenge, but it's part of it.
I have one
Got it,
more
good.
question. It's more personal, but it's, do you have advice if you do business, say, in Mexico and Spain and the US?
She owns a tequila business.
Yeah, I built a little bit of like a business around people that operate out of different countries. I have a couple pharmaceutical executives that operate businesses in different. It's about bringing the right team. Sometimes it's people that complement me, like bringing in the right attorney who can deal with those matters, or bringing in the right CPA or accounting firm that's familiar with that. Like, it's about the team. Like, I'm just a part of it.
Guys, we're out of time. Brian, thanks again for coming, and we'll see everybody next week again.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Brian.